The Celtic nations are territories in northern and western Europe where Celtic languages or cultural traits have survived. The term nation is used in its original sense to mean a people who share a common identity and culture and are identified with a traditional territory. It is not synonymous with sovereign state. The 6 territories recognised as Celtic nations are Brittany, Cornwall, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and the Isle of Man. Each has a Celtic language that is either still spoken or was spoken into modern times. Territories in northwestern Iberia, particularly Galicia, northern Portugal and Asturias, sometimes referred to as Galicia, which includes north-central Portugal, are sometimes included due to their culture and history. Unlike the others, however, no Celtic language has been spoken there in modern times. Before the expansions of ancient Rome and the Germanic tribes, a significant part of Europe was dominated by Celtic culture. 6 Celtic nations. Each of the 6 nations has its own Celtic language. In Wales, Scotland, Brittany, and Ireland, these have been spoken continuously through time, while Cornwall and the Isle of Man have languages that were spoken into modern times but later died as spoken community languages. In the latter 2 regions, however, language revitalization movements have led to the adoption of these languages by adults and produced a number of native speakers. Ireland, Wales, Brittany and Scotland contain areas where a Celtic language is used on a daily basis. In Ireland the area is called the Gaeltacht on the west coast, Wyfro Gymraeg in Wales, and in Brittany Brigidesal. Generally these communities are in the west of their countries and in more isolated upland or island areas. The term Gaeltacht historically distinguished the Gaelic-speaking areas of Scotland from the lowland Scots-speaking areas. More recently, this term has also been adopted as the Gaelic name of the Highland Council area, which includes non-Gaelic-speaking areas. Hence, more specific terms such as Sgire Gaelic are now used. In Wales, the Welsh language is a core curriculum subject, which all pupils study. Additionally, 20% of schoolchildren in Wales go to Welsh medium schools, where they are taught entirely in the Welsh language. In the Republic of Ireland, all schoolchildren study Irish as one of the 3 core subjects up until the end of secondary school, and 7.4% of primary school education is through Irish medium education, which is part of the Gaelscoil movement. Other territories, parts of the northern Iberian Peninsula, namely Galicia, Cantabria, Asturias and northern Portugal, also lay claim to this heritage. Notably, the region's music features extensive use of bagpipes, an instrument common in Celtic music. Musicians from Galicia and Asturias have participated in Celtic music festivals, such as the Breton festival into Celtic de Lorient, which in 2013 celebrated the Year of Asturias. Northern Portugal, part of ancient Galicia, also has traditions quite similar to Galicia. However, no Celtic language has been spoken in northern Iberia since probably the early Middle Ages. Irish was once widely spoken on the island of Newfoundland before largely disappearing there by the early 20th century. Vestiges remain in some words found in Newfoundland English, such as scrobe for scratch and slevin for rascal. There are no fluent speakers of Scottish Gaelic in Newfoundland or Labrador today. Knowledge seems to be largely restricted to memorized passages, such as traditional tales and songs. Canadian Gaelic dialects of Scottish Gaelic are still spoken by Gaels in other parts of Atlantic Canada, primarily on Cape Breton Island and adjacent areas of Nova Scotia. Patagonian Welsh is spoken principally in YWLADFA and the Chubut province of Patagonia, with sporadic speakers throughout Argentina by Welsh Argentines. Estimates of the number of Welsh speakers range from 1,500 to 5,000. Celtic languages. The chart below shows the population of each Celtic nation and the number of people in each nation who can speak Celtic languages. The total number of people residing in the Celtic nations is 19,596,000 people Of these, the total number of people who can speak the Celtic languages is approximately 2,818,000, or 14.3%. 1. The flag of the Republic of Ireland is used by the Celtic League to represent Ireland, although there is no universally accepted flag for the whole of the island. Of the languages above, 3 belong to the Gaelic or Gaelic branch and 3 to the Brythonic or Brittonic branch. Their names for each other in each language shows some of the similarities and differences. Celtic identity. Formal cooperation between the Celtic nations is active in many contexts, including politics, languages, culture, music and sports. The Celtic League is an inter-Celtic political organization, which campaigns for the political, language, cultural and social rights, affecting one or more of the Celtic nations. Established in 1917, the Celtic Congress is a non-political organization that seeks to promote Celtic culture and languages and to maintain intellectual contact and close cooperation between Celtic peoples. Festivals celebrating the culture of the Celtic nations include the Festival Inter Celtic de l'Orion, the Pan-Celtic Festival, Celtfest Cuba, the National Celtic Festival, the Celtic Media Festival, and the Eisteddfod. Inter-Celtic music festivals include Celtic Connections, and the Hebridean Celtic Festival. Due to immigration, a dialect of Scottish Gaelic is spoken by some on Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia, while a Welsh-speaking minority exists in the Chubut province of Argentina. Hence, for certain purposes, such as the Festival Inter Celtic de l'Orion Galaresha, Asturias and Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia are considered 3 of the 9 Celtic nations. Competitions are held between the Celtic nations in sports such as rugby union, athletics and association football. The Republic of Ireland enjoyed a period of rapid economic growth between 1995 to 2007, leading to the use of the phrase Celtic Tiger to describe the country. Aspirations for Scotland to achieve a similar economic performance to that of Ireland led the Scotland First Minister Alex Salmond to set out his vision of a Celtic Lion economy for Scotland. In 2007, terminology. The term Celtic nations derives from the linguistic studies of the 16th-century scholar George Buchanan and the polymath Edward Lhuyd. As assistant keeper and then keeper of the Ashmolean Museum, Oxford, Lhuyd travelled extensively in Great Britain, Ireland and Brittany in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. Noting the similarity between the languages of Brittany, Cornwall and Wales, which he called P-Celtic, or Brythonic, the languages of Ireland, the Isle of Man and Scotland, which he called Q-Celtic, or Goidelic, and between the two groups, Lhuyd published Archaeologia Britannica, an account of the languages, histories and customs of Great Britain, from travels through Wales, Cornwall, Bar Britannia, Ireland and Scotland in 1707. His Archaeologia Britannica concluded that all 6 languages derived from the same root. Lhuyd theorized that the root language descended from the languages spoken by the Iron Age tribes of Gaul, whom Greek and Roman writers called Celtic. Having defined the languages of those areas as Celtic, the people living in them and speaking those languages became known as Celtic too. There is some dispute as to whether Lhuyd's theory is correct. Nevertheless, the term Celtic to describe the languages and peoples of Brittany, Cornwall and Wales, Ireland, the Isle of Man and Scotland was accepted from the 18th century and is widely used today. These areas of Europe are sometimes referred to as the Celt Belt, or Celtic Fringe, because of their location generally on the western edges of the continent, and of the states they inhabit. Additionally, this region is known as the Celtic Crescent, because of the near crescent-shaped position of the nations in Europe, territories of the ancient Celts. During the European Iron Age, the ancient Celts extended their territory to most of Western and Central Europe and part of Eastern Europe and Central Anatolia. The continental Celtic languages were extinct by the early Middle Ages, and the continental Celtic cultural traits, such as in oral traditions and practices like the visiting of sacred wells and springs, largely disappeared or, in some cases, were translated. Since they no longer have a living Celtic language, they are not included as Celtic nations. Nonetheless, some of these countries have movements claiming a Celtic identity. Iberian Peninsula. The Iberian Peninsula was an area heavily influenced by Celtic culture, particularly the ancient region of Galicia and the Asturian region. Only France and Britain have more ancient Celtic place names than Spain and Portugal combined. Some of the Celtic tribes recorded in these regions by the Romans were the Gallici, the Bracari, the Astures, the Cantabri, the Celtici, the Celtiberi, the Chimagogi, Albion and Serbaci. The Lusitanians are categorized by some as Celts, or at least Celticized, but there remain inscriptions in an apparently non-Celtic Lusitanian language. However, the language had clear affinities with the Galician Celtic language. Modern-day Galicians, Asturians, Cantabrians and Northern Portuguese claim a Celtic heritage or identity, although the Celtic cultural traces are as difficult to analyze as in the other former Celtic countries of Europe. Because of the extinction of Iberian Celtic languages in Roman times, Celtic heritage is attested in toponymics and language substratum, ancient texts, folklore and music. At the end, late Celtic influence is also attributed to the 5th century Romano-Briton colony of Bretonia in Galicia. 10th century Middle Irish mythical history La Borgabala Erin credited Galicia as the point from where the Gaelic Celts sailed to conquer Ireland. England. In Celtic languages, England is usually referred to as Saxon land, and in Welsh as Legar also refers to the Saxon root Saesneg, with the English people being referred to as Saeson, or Saes, in the singular. The mildly derogatory Scottish Gaelic term Sassenach derives from this source. However, spoken Cumbric survived until approximately the 12th century, Cornish until the 18th century, and Welsh within the Welsh Marches, notably in Archenfield, now part of Herefordshire, until the 19th century. Both Cumbria and Cornwall were traditionally Brythonic in culture. Anglo-Saxon settlement in these areas was historically small. Cornwall existed as an independent state for some time after the foundation of England, and Cumbria originally retained a great deal of autonomy within the Kingdom of Northumbria. The unification of the Anglian Kingdom of Northumbria with the Cumbric Kingdom of Cumbria came about due to a political marriage between the Northumbrian king Oswiu and Queen Rhiamelth, a then Princess of Reged, with only a minor Anglian presence as a consequence. Movements of population between different parts of Great Britain over the last 2 centuries, with industrial development and changes in living patterns such as the growth of second home ownership, have greatly modified the demographics of these areas, including the Isles of Scilly off the coast of Cornwall. Although Cornwall in particular retains unique cultural features, and a Cornish self-government movement is well established, Brythonic and Cumbric place names are found throughout England but are more common in the west of England than the east, reaching their highest density in the traditionally Celtic areas of Cornwall, Cumbria and the areas of England bordering Wales. Name elements containing Brythonic topographic words, such as Caer, fort, as in the Cumbrian city of Carlisle; Pen, hill, as in the Cumbrian town of Penrith and Pendle Hill in Lancashire; Avon, river, as in the River Avon in Warwickshire; and Mynyd, mountain, as in Longmynd in Shropshire, occur in many areas of England. The name Cumbria is derived from the same root as Cymru, the Welsh name for Wales, meaning the land of comrades. Formerly Gaulish regions. Most French people identify with the ancient Gauls and are well aware that they were a people that spoke Celtic languages. and lived Celtic ways of life. Nowadays, the popular nickname Gaulois, Gaulish people, is very often used to mean stock French people, to make the difference with the descendants of foreigners in France. Walloons occasionally characterize themselves as Celts, mainly in opposition to the Teutonic, Flemish and Latin, French identities. Others think they are Belgian, that is to say Germano-Celtic people different from the Gaulish Celtic French. The ethnonym Walloon derives from a Germanic word meaning foreign, cognate with the words Welsh and Vlach. The name of Belgium, home country of the Walloon people, is cognate with the Celtic tribal names Belgi and the Irish legendary Furby Olg. Italian Peninsula. The Cana Great culture may represent the first migratory wave of the Proto-Celtic population from the northwest part of the Alps, that, through the Alpine passes, had already penetrated and settled in the western Po Valley between Lake Maggiore and Lake Como. It has also been proposed that a more ancient Proto-Celtic presence can be traced back to the beginning of the Middle Bronze Age, when northwestern Italy appears closely linked regarding the production of bronze artifacts, including ornaments, to the western groups of the tumulus culture. Latin cultural material appeared over a large area of mainland Italy, the southernmost example being the Celtic helmet from Canossa di Puglia. Italy is home to the Lepontic, the oldest attested Celtic language, anciently spoken in Switzerland and in northern central Italy, from the Alps to Umbria. According to the Recueil inscriptions Gauloises, more than 760 Gaulish inscriptions have been found throughout present-day France, with the notable exception of Aquitaine, and in Italy, which testifies the importance of Celtic heritage in the peninsula. The French and Arpitan-speaking Aosta Valley region in Italy also presents a claim of Celtic heritage. The Northern League Autonomous Party often exalts what it claims are the Celtic roots of all northern Italy or Padania. Reportedly, Friuli also has an claim to Celticity. Central and Eastern European regions. Celtic tribes inhabited land in what is now southern Germany and Austria. Many scholars have associated the earliest Celtic peoples with the Hallstatt culture. The Boyars, the Scordisar, and the Vindelici are some of the tribes that inhabited Central Europe, including what is now Slovakia, Serbia, Croatia, Poland and the Czech Republic, as well as Germany and Austria. The Boyar gave their name to Bohemia. The Boyar founded a city on the site of modern Prague, and some of its ruins are now a tourist attraction. There are claims among modern Czechs that the Czech people are as much descendants of the Boyar as they are from the later Slavic invaders. This claim might not only be political. According to a 2000 study by Semino, 35.6% of Czech males have Y chromosome haplogroup R1b, which is common among Celts but rare amongst Slavs. Celts also founded Sigurjunum near present-day Belgrade, though the Celtic presence in modern-day Serbian regions is limited to the far north. The modern-day capital of Turkey, Ankara, was once the center of the Celtic culture in central Anatolia, giving the name to the region, Galatia. The Latin culture, named for a region in modern Switzerland, succeeded the Hallstatt era in much of Central Europe.